What is up, you sexy YouTube mother lovers? Now, it's getting closer to winter time, which means, guys, it's time to break out the jackets out of the closet. And we all know what that means. It's the season of carrying bigger guns than you normally would. Like, for example, if you normally carry something smaller like a PPK or a Glock 43 or something like that, you can now get away with something like a Beretta or a Glock 19. Or if you're like me and you already carry a Glock 19, you get to carry something just a little bit bigger, like, for example, maybe a VZ-61 Skorpion submachine gun. That's right, today we are going to be playing with the Skorpion. Now, is this a practical carry gun? Wrong question. Is this a fucking cool carry gun? Right question. This thing is so sporadic with its fucking burst. It was just, I hit like 2 on target and the rest were like on the left and right side. So this is the VZ-61, AKA the Skorpion, AKA the Skorp, AKA the Klob, as this was known as the Klob submachine gun from GoldenEye. Of course, that version had the stock folded because I think that was back when game developers did not give 3/5 of a fuck and they just saw a photo of a gun and included it, not knowing what any of the components did, like this one popping out and becoming a stock. However, I use the term stock pretty loosely. This is bent fucking coat hanger bullshit, and not in the normal way that makes your guns fun. This stock is made for, I don't know who this is made for, but I know they weren't shaped like a person. It's it's got a bit of a downward cant to it there, which really just wants to slide off of your shoulder, and it's awful. It's actually a little easier to use if you just try to hook it over your shoulder. You get a little bit better sight picture that way, but yeah, I mean, it is certainly something to brace the gun against your body with, but I would not consider this to be a good stock by any means. It's better than nothing. Great superlative. But yeah, back to basics, the VZ-61 is a submachine gun chambered in 32 ACP. Because 9mm is fucking scary, I guess.
A 9mm bullet blows the lung out of the body.
I'll make some jokes about 32 ACP, but it is a Browning cartridge, so it deserves some respect. But yeah, it's designated the VZ-61 because it was designed in Czechoslovakia in 1961. It was made to be kind of a machine pistol that was, very small, very, very compact, and I think they actually accomplished that pretty well for what this is. I don't know how you could condense a gun into something smaller than this that still retains the same function, especially for being direct blowback. This is impressively small. That's what she said. The compactness, of course, does come at a small cost. Of course, with direct blowback, there is a bit of a bolt weight calculation that you need to do to be able to determine the maximum size round you're allowed to use, which is why this one ended up in 32 ACP. All right, kids, you know what time it is. It's clobbering time. I'm gonna fucking kill. But yes, of course, as my subscribers know, it is White Claw penetration test time. So we're going to see what kind of power you can get out of the mighty, tiny but mighty 32 ACP. Tiny but mighty. I'm sure a couple of you guys can relate. All right, so we've got her on semi. Just gonna put 1 round into this claw. Oh, keeping state secrets in 3, 2, 1. Well, that'll do it. So this man, the state really does not like him. He never even got to see Gulag. Not that he was missing a lot. You do not want to go to Gulag. But now for what the Skorpion would actually be useful for, which is multiple enemies of the state at very awkwardly close distance. Lemonade stand, die filthy capitalist pigs. Have a nice day. All right, so basic controls here. We have our selector on this side here. This is your semi, this is your safe, and this is your full auto. On this particular gun, we have our semi designated with a 0 and our auto designated with a 1 because it is actually worth pointing out, this is actually a conversion that was done to a semi-auto receiver, which is why that probably is the way that is. Your magazine release is this button right here. Just press that, your magazine comes right out. Your stock is retained by these little sheet metal ears right here on the front sight. So all you have to do is just kind of push that up a little bit. I like to pop it out because it just kind of folds over and it locks here in the rear. To be able to fold that back up again, you pinch this right here and this arm of the stock unlocks and you can fold it back down where it is again captured by your front sight. But it is really just fun to do that. And as our friend Clay knows, sometimes the stock just comes out when you're not expecting it. But your charging handle is actually on both sides here, so you just kind of pinch up there. And we actually do have a last round bolt hold open on this gun. So you see, this is completely clear. You just pull this back a little bit, and then the bolt goes back forward. Now, of course, that won't trigger if you don't have a magazine in it, but what we do have is a bolt hold open here. So we pull this back, press this in, and the bolt stays open. As you can see, it's that little button right there. We're gonna get into the nerdy guts in a bit, but all in all, this is a nice little compact machine pistol or submachine gun. Now, one of the other things that the VZ-61 would have been kind of in the same class as, so to speak, I guess when it comes to Spetsnaz, KGB, weaponry, that kind of thing. Submachine guns, you know, something you'd have in the back of a van if you were, I don't know, hypothetically stopping said van and executing political enemies, would have been the AKS-74U. Believe it or not, these were technically classified. The Russians called them submachine guns. They're not pistol caliber, so that doesn't really meet our Western definition, but that's what they were called. Not quite as conducive to jacket carry as maybe the Skorpion, which is why I guess a lot of those would have been popular for very low profile, don't scare the hose kind of operations. This AKS-74U, or Krinkov in particular, was actually loaned to us by Gunspot. Now, I already have a Krink, so why'd they send us this one? Well, I'm glad you asked, hypothetical viewer. Aside from being a really cool sponsor of the channel, which we would, again, like to thank them very much for continuing to be, Gunspot's where you can pick up all sorts of cool stuff like this, which is actually a Krink that was there present on set of Red Dawn. Yeah, that Red Dawn, not the new Chris Hemsworth bullshit.
Drake, where's the minigun?
But yeah, they actually had the paperwork and everything for this. This gun in its original shape, whatever that was, is one of the serial numbers and make, model, everything that is listed in the prop department sheet for the 1984 Red Dawn movie, which makes this super fucking cool. And I get to shoot it. Oh man, history fucks sometimes. And so does Gunspot. So thank you very much for sending this out to us, and it was a pleasure to be able to demo it to all of you folk. But yeah, while the AKS-74Us are baller as shit and one of my favorite AKs just because of how sexy they look, they're, you know, not always the most practical. Like I said, hiding that, not exactly an easy thing to do. Much easier than a standard AK, but if you're talking about something like the Skorpion that is designed to be carried very incognito, it's the obvious choice, unless you needed to penetrate armor or do literally anything rifle rounds are good at, because 32 ACP is aim for the legs. It is worth noting they do have 10 round magazines for the Skorpion as well. This is for use inside of the leather holster that it also came with. Yes, they did make a holster for a machine pistol. But yeah, 10 round magazines, useful just in case your automatic machine pistol is in California. It'll at least save you one felony. Those of you who haven't subscribed to me yet, those of you who have been subscribers, don't be this guy. Go ahead and subscribe. So now, let's get all up in them nerdy guts. So on this side, we will push our pin out, and this is actually a captured pin, so that stays in the gun, but the top hinges open like so. We'll go ahead and remove our magazine, don't need that right now. So as you can see here, we now have access to our bolt and spring assembly here. So now that we've lined it up with these grooves, we can pull out the charging handle little knobs there. And now we have access to our bolt and recoil spring assembly. So this is where the magic happens. So our recoil spring assembly is these two rods that actually are going through loops here in the front of the bolt, and the recoil springs sit behind those little metal loops that keep it retained. So that is what it pushes on when the gun is cycling. On top of that, you got your firing pin back here, which is what the hammer strikes when the gun is fired. Now, what is also really neat is what I guess is done as a move to try to milk as much mass out of the bolt as possible is instead of ending it right here, which is where you would need to end it for the bolt face and such, this is technically all the length that you need for the bolt, because this is where the cartridge sits while the gun is operating. You have your extractor up top here, and this is where your firing pin protrudes and strikes the back of the round, right? The rest of the bolt up here actually goes around the barrel inside the, for lack of a better word, the upper of the gun. So it sleeves over and around the barrel. This is just to try to get a little bit more mass out of it, which is also cool because that's why that cutout is there, because that space, this extra piece of bolt is forward, that would cause it to jam while it's ejecting, spent casings. So they just cut a fucking hole in it. So while this gun is cycling and rounds are actually being ejected out of the top of the gun, they are actually being ejected through a moving bolt, which can occasionally lead to some malfunctions. Bitch. So now I think we can put our bolt away. So I'll just find that groove here. So we put our charging handle knobs back. I don't know if that's the technical term, but that's the term I'm gonna use today. That'll make it work better. And there we go. And as you can see, as it's operating through the gun, as long as it's not all the way to the rear where this little cutout is, they are fully retained to the bolt. So you don't have to worry about them popping out while it cycles. Now on the inside of the lower here, we've got all of the components I guess you'd normally find in a hammer fired gun. We've got our hammer, which when the trigger's pulled, hammer goes forward. Got your disconnector, a couple components you wouldn't normally find. Like this here, for example. This is our, our fast sear, because this is a fast boy. And he was a skater boy. She said, "See you later, boy." Now in the back here, we have what would be our rate reducer. So the VZ-61 has a cool mechanism that basically uses a plunger system back here to try to drag on the bolt, kind of lock the bolt a little further to the rear for just slightly longer, slowing down the cyclic rate because this is a fast bitch. So fast, in fact, one of my favorite little facts about the VZ-61 is one of the things that it's kind of known for, is that out of a 20-round magazine, full auto on this, you will finish the entire mag a good half second before the first piece of brass hits the ground, which gives it a very unique sound. It's like the Czech golden shower. I'm not sure if that's on Urban Dictionary or not, but I assume that it wouldn't be my definition. The Europeans really like their pee play. What I'm really excited about that I also get to show off for you guys is this is just kind of a rare treat. This is an actual Yugoslavian Skorpion suppressor. This is actually made specifically for the VZ-61, or as the Yugoslavians called it. For them, their designation was the M84, I believe. Because while this was used for all sorts of cool KGB, Spetsnaz kind of stuff, jumping out of vans and schwacking political enemies, the Yugoslavs saw that and thought, well, that's pretty dope. We like doing that too, so we'd like one for our own. So why I keep finger fucking this little thread at the end is that this actually works at kind of like a call-it system. And I am actually super excited to show this to you because this is a real Yugoslavian made, or actually, well, technically Serbia now, Serbian made Skorpion suppressors. This is really neat. So what this is kind of like a call-it system. So there's a little collar here. So by threading this, you actually tighten that. And when you unthread it, you see it kind of loosens its grip. It's almost like, actually, if you have like an electrical drill or something like that. It's a similar concept for retaining your bits. So what this does is that there's a small collar right here. Really not pronounced, but it is there on the end of the barrel. And what happens is you loosen this up all the way. You push it on, give it a little bit of rearward pressure there. Hear that nice positive snap. And then you just thread this bitch on till she good and tight, and your suppressor is now attached. So now I'm gonna go shoot this into my backyard. I'm just kidding. Roll the range footage. I'm gonna shoot one round, my ear's still on, and if I think I can take them off, kind of get a feel for it. It's not that loud, but it's, you know, it's a little spicy. So let's see how she sounds. Please no baffle strikes. Okay, that actually didn't sound too bad at all. I'm gonna take the ears off. That is quite easily hearing safe. Okay, well, this is quite easily hearing safe to me. I have crippling tinnitus. If I don't sleep with the fan on high, it sounds like the Call of Duty flashbang animation. So, hearing safe to me might not be hearing safe to you, but it is remarkably quiet, actually. So now that you guys have had a chance to really kind of get familiarized with the VZ-61, what do you think? Of course, it's an iconic submachine gun of history in movies and such, but would you rock one? That's the question. This is one you guys have been asking for a while, so if there's any other videos that you would like to see, go ahead and leave those down in the comments. It's bad for my mental health, but I do actually read them. But that's all we've got for the range for you guys today. I appreciate you watching to the end. And as always, I'll see you sexy YouTube mother lovers in the next video. Thanks. Or if you're like me and you typically carry a Glock 19 anyway, you can carry something like, oh fuck, something that gets caught in your jacket.
Hello from the end of the video.
Howdy blooper people, how are you today?